Video 2 for our composition task. In this video I'll be discussing how I created the bass part for this composition. So basically when we create our different layers, melody, harmony and bass, they should be layers of sound, like layers of a cake. Okay, our bass layer can be rhythmically simple and should predominantly use the root note, which is the lowest note, of each chord that you are using. Alright, so let's go to the actual composition. Here is the chord progression that I chose. And this chord progression has we're in the key, of F major in 3/4 time. It uses chord 1, chord 4, chord 5, chord 1. There are our 4 basic primary triads. Following that, I decided to get a bit adventurous and use a few secondary triads, chord 6, 7 and chord 2. And finally I finished with chord 5 going to chord 1, chord 5, 7 in fact going to chord 1. Once again 2 primary triads. Notice that I used here a 7th chord and here a 7th chord as well. So my chord progression sounds something, I've probably got it switched off, yes. My chord progression sounds something like this. Sorry, just my chord progression sounds something like this. Chord 1, chord 4, chord 5, chord 1, chord 6, 7, chord 2, chord 5, 7, chord 1. And then basically what I did is I looked at the bottom note in each of these and transferred that to my bass part. This is my bass part here, the cello. So, chord 1, my bottom note is an F. So there's my F. Chord 4, my bottom note here is a B flat. So there's my B flat. Chord 5, bottom note here is a C. So there's my C. Back here to F, F. Okay? And so on and so forth through the whole song. Now, for those people who are extremely observant, you'll notice that there are a few notes that don't belong. That note doesn't belong. It's not an F, I've changed to an A. But in fact, all I've done here is I've just gone from F to then the middle note of chord 1 to the A. And the reason why I've done this is because then this is a very nice linking note to my next chord, which is the B flat, chord 4. So I'm just using it as a little bit of a linking note. Here is the next note that doesn't belong. In this case, my bass notes are meant to go from F down to D. So as you can see, I've gone from F to D, but I've just thrown in this little E note in between. F, F, E, D. And it just links up again nicely between those 2 main notes. Once again, from there, then from the D, I've gone to the middle note of the triad, of the chord, to link up with the G note. So once again, this is just a little linking note going up to there, but this time it is actually part of the chord. And then exactly the same thing happens here. I've got the correct bottom note, but then I use the middle note of the triad, the B flat, to link up with the C. So once again, this note here is just being used as a linking note up to the C. So my bass part ends up sounding like this. Notice as well that my bass part is fairly simple rhythmically. All it is minim, crotchet, minim, crotchet, minim, crotchet, minim, crotchet. In fact, you would say that that's a rhythmic ostinato, or all the way till there. A rhythmic ostinato because it is a rhythm that repeats in every bar. The only time it changes is here at the end, and I just changed it to add a little bit of interest, so crotchet, then a bunch of quavers, and then a nice broad long note on the last note to finish, which makes it sound nice and finished. And that's basically how I created my bass part based on the chord progression that I created, and using the bottom note in each chord as my bass note in each bar.